Following Assassin's Creed Shadows in March of this year, we now got Ghost of Yotei. Sony's exclusive PS5 open-world adventure marks the second trip to feudal Japan in 2025, and I know this is about a week late, but hopefully you'll still find it worth watching when we compare both these games in their certain core aspects. I'm not sure if it's really about choosing the best one necessarily, but maybe rather finding a game set in Japan that works better for you. My GameStar colleague actually did all the hard work and wrote this, so I'm just a messenger here. Both these games will go head-to-head in 5 categories: graphics, open world, combat, stealth, and narrative. Ready? Let's begin. Whatever you want to say about these games, both Ghost of Yotei and Assassin's Creed Shadows look really good. High draw distances, a lot of detail, and generally solid visuals for 2025. But on closer inspection, Ubisoft's adventure holds a slight technical edge. While Shadows uses modern tech like ray traced reflections and global illumination for realistic light and shadow casting, these features are missing in Ghost of Yotei. The newest game from Sucker Punch only offers ray traced shadows if you turn the proper graphics mode on. While Yotei, just like its predecessor Ghost of Tsushima, once again relies on an artistic, minimalist samurai film aesthetic, I don't think more realistic lighting and especially reflections would have clashed with this vision, and precisely because the game looks more realistic than Tsushima, the absence of the newer technology is more noticeable. The difference in swimming also clearly shows that the AC Japan game is technically ahead of Yotei. While the water barely reacts to Atsu, Naoe in Shadows visibly displaces the cool water, and not just her, but her horse too. While the seasons in Shadows switch dynamically, Yotei's 4 main hub areas are each thematically tied to one fixed season. A cool but unexpected detail is that in both games, the protagonists leave visible tracks in the snow. When it comes to vegetation and particle effects, the open-world titles are neck to neck. In both Shadows and Yotei, leaves, blossoms, and everything else on the ground are impressively swept through the air. The character models in Yotei and Shadows are also roughly on the same level. Unfortunately, neither game is the new flagship title for realistically animated faces, especially not for standard NPCs. But where it matters, like in the cutscenes, the dialogue is animated in an absolutely okay way, though I still wish more games used tech like Cyberpunk's Jali. When it comes to population density, however, Assassin's Creed takes the lead again. Significantly more people populate the world here, but that's also simply because Yotei doesn't offer a single large city. But in return, you encounter wild animals like horses, for example, much more often in Sucker Punch's game. Significantly more things are destructible in Shadows. Naoe and Yasuke love to slice half the world into tiny pieces. While Yotei offers much more destruction than Tsushima, it looks dated compared to Shadows. So purely from a technical perspective, Assassin's Creed Shadows has the edge, but Ghost of Yotei doesn't really suffer from it that much. Its distinctive art style cleverly masks its existing disadvantages. While Shadows aims for a more realistic look, Sony's adventure relies on strong contrasts and highly saturated colors, with its dynamic camera swings, which zoom out at just the right moment or shift Atsu to the side of the frame while riding. Yotei sometimes looks like a living painting. I think it's safe to say it makes the best of the PS5 technical limitations, and despite some technical drawbacks, certainly doesn't have to cower before Ubisoft's open world. Quite the opposite. With its clear visual style, it might even be the more beautiful game for some players, technical details aside. However, appealing visuals are only one part of the gaming experience. What good is the best visual presentation if the game beneath it is lacking? That's precisely why it's time to move on from graphics to the open worlds, specifically how Shadows and Yotei fill their worlds with content. and we'll do this without including the main and side quests, which we'll cover separately later. Both games are packed with side activities, some of which are very similar. In Ghost of Yotei, you can bathe in hot springs for a health upgrade, you can cut through bamboos in a bamboo strike, collect bounties, follow foxes to valuable crafting materials, cook food, forge weapons, travel into Atsu's past, free wolves, and much more. In Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can optionally learn the choreographed combat movements called katas, you can meditate in special spots, shoot targets from horseback with a bow and arrow, you can explore small dungeons, collect items and shrines, and capture forts back from enemy samurai. Even though both games fundamentally offer a typical formula of open-world activities, Yotei has a slight lead here. While which tasks you ultimately prefer is a matter of taste, Sony's open world integrates its optional activities much more organically into the game. In the hot springs, you reflect on Atsu's life and recent events. The journey into the past is literally just a button hold away, all the small minigames make pleasant use of the PS5 controller, and you don't find all the side activities via question marks on the map, but naturally through the easily readable game world itself. A golden bird leads you to points of interest, and smoke can reveal interesting enemy camps. In Shadows, you're more likely to just clear the map of icons, and the activities themselves are too often unexciting quick-time events. Ghost of Yotei also almost always performs better in traversal. While the noble steed here gracefully runs around trees and even gets a small boost near white flowers, the horse in Shadows struggles with almost every bit of woodland. Here, the newest Assassin's Creed own commitment to realism gets in its own way a bit too much. Only in climbing does Shadows outclass the competition. While Atsu also climbs houses and hills, she simply can't do it as elegantly as Naoe. And at about 80 square kilometers, Assassin's Creed also offers a significantly larger game world. The open world in Yotei is about the same size as Tsushima's, making it nearly 3 times smaller than that in Shadows. Now, a large portion of Yotei and Shadows is spent in combat, and at first glance, the combat systems of the two open-world adventures may look quite similar. Both offer a multitude of weapons, and both throw hordes of enemies at their protagonists. With the kusarigama, odachi, bow, and katana, Atsu, Naoe, and Yasuke even use some of the exact same tools of destruction. Even blocking and dodging red-marked attacks looks pretty similar in both games, but the differences lie in the details. Shadows features 2 different playable characters who both engage in combat differently. Naoe is nimble and uses fast weapons like a katana or a kusarigama. Yasuke approaches combat with brutal force and equally powerful weapons, like this kanabo. Each weapon has its own pros and cons. A spear or a kusarigama, for example, is good for keeping enemies at bay, but deals less damage. The kanabo, on the other hand, hits hard, but is very slow. This means there's no right or wrong choice, you simply have the freedom to choose how you want to carve through your enemies. This is different in Ghost of Yotei. Here, combat follows a clear rock, paper, scissors principle. One katana is effective against other swordsmen, 2 katanas throw spearmen off balance, and an odachi takes down large, heavily armored enemies. In Yotei, you constantly switch from one weapon to the next and back again, and you often shoot at distant enemies with the bow or gun in between. So you can say that Assassin's Creed offers more freedom in combat, while Yotei makes you make an effective use of all its weapons, and which system you prefer clearly depends on what will work best for you. Now, if you're not running like a lunatic into the nearest group of enemies, you can also take a stealthy approach in both games. Just like with combat, the stealth systems look similar at first glance, but reveal strong differences on the second. In both Yotei and Shadows, you hide in tall grass, distract enemies with the calculated toss of an object, and silently eliminate foes with an assassination. But Assassin's Creed is significantly more complex regarding stealth. Here you can put out lamps to creep unseen through the shadows, you can remain invisible even in low grass by crawling on the ground, you can hang from some ceilings and drag enemies into tall grass using a chokehold. A bonus cool feature is that your choice of weapons influences stealth as well. With the katana, Naoe can take out enemies through thin walls, and only with the tanto is the series' typical double assassination available. Because you also can't take out every enemy with a single stab at the beginning, stealth quickly becomes tactical. who do you eliminate first so that you can defeat the big, tough enemy in peace at the end. Yotei can't quite keep up with that. There are also heavily armored enemies that you can only silently eliminate with an upgrade, but because climbing is a bit clumsier than in Shadows and you simply don't have as many options for stealth as in Ubisoft's game, Yotei clearly falls short here, even if the small stealth sequences are a welcome change from the regular combat. So stealth is an option here, even a valid one, but it's clear that more focus was put on combat in this game. Finally, we come to the narrative. Don't worry, no spoilers of course. Unlike Tsushima, Yotei this time also opts for a more open narrative structure. Just like in Shadows, you decide which thread to follow, and when you eliminate which enemy can be different for many players. Yotei centers around Atsu, who seeks revenge on the so-called Yotei 6 for the murder of her family. Shadows focuses on Naoe, who seeks revenge on a mysterious organization for the murder of her father. Yeah, that's more than just a bit similar. And in fact, the stories of both avenging angels of death are similarly good and open, and suffer from the same problems as well. Due to the open structure, the pacing of the stories sometimes falters. Yotei especially has to face the question of whether a linear narrative wouldn't have been the wiser idea, since I feel it worked better in the previous game. Both games also portray their characters not simply in black and white, but give every enemy and ally relatable motivations. Yotei's advantage is that because the campaign is significantly shorter than in Shadows, the middle section drags much less, and Atsu's experiences are over with the ending, whereas Shadows players only received a proper finale months later with the first major story DLC. Regarding side missions, Yotei also has a slight edge. While liberating villages and camps quickly becomes repetitive here too, the game strives for variance in the underlying stories, and acquiring new gear is also tied to stylishly presented dueling quests. Shadow's side quests like collect the supplies in Camp X or kill 50 bandits, well, they can't compete here. However, even Yotei doesn't reach the level of the awesomely told teacher stories from Tsushima, where you had to track down the renegade student of a bowmaster, for example. Both Shadows and Yotei allow themselves to be led too much toward a typical open-world solutions here. But if you're only interested in the story, you can't go wrong with either game. Both function similarly at their core, and both have similar strengths and weaknesses. So like I said in the beginning, it's not really about choosing the best game, but presenting you with a set of information that will allow you to choose whether Assassin's Creed Shadows or Ghost of Yotei is more up to your taste. The bottom line, however, is that the Ghost series is much closer to Ubisoft's open world franchise with its second installment, so if you simply love feudal Japan action in an open world, you actually have two games to play this year because you'll likely enjoy both titles. But if you're looking for my own preference, I think the overall atmosphere created by the art style in Yotei speaks to me more, and in general I'm going to like it a bit more when I actually finish it. I mean me, not Jonas who wrote the video. But I am still curious to hear which game appeals to you more, and obviously why. Thank you for watching, take care.